Welcome to AmityCast. My name is Ellis.
And I'm Matthew.
Today we're discussing Zack Snyder's Justice League, or the Snyder Cut.
Or just Justice League.
Just
that
Justice
other one's
League.
just not good.
Yeah, it's
I've met very few people that like it.
I haven't met anyone who's ever said that Joss Whedon's Justice League was good, and it was definitely a pretty poor film overall. I would probably give Justice League a 2 out of 10, and I would give the Snyder Cut probably a 5 out of 10. Maybe a 6, maybe a 4. I don't know. I've only seen it once, and it's 4 hours long, so I haven't given it a second viewing yet, which I usually like to give films multiple viewings, but again, it is 4 hours long, so.
Yeah, there was very few good things good about the 2017 one.
Yeah.
I guess there was a few, maybe, if I really tried. But overall, it was just...
If you looked at it through rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. But I watched this film twice because I give movies a fair chance. And it's also really good. It's a little hard to get through it the second time in the same day, though. Yeah.
Just for reference, he watched it the night before we watched it together. And it's a 4-hour movie, as I've already said twice. So
4 hours and 2 minutes.
Yeah. So it was definitely a lot for him. Like 5 minutes in, I think he was already done. But it's not to say that there wasn't enjoyable things about the Snyder Cut. It overall was a pretty strong outing, I'd say, as far as DC movies have been historically.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that was bad in the movie was fixed or just poorly developed. Like, all the characters had much more development. And it doesn't help that there was no, solo movies for all these characters. Because we only had it for Superman and Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman was kind of, so disconnected from, the current timeline that I almost didn't even feel like it had anything meaningful to say. And Man of Steel was more... that was a good solo movie, but it wasn't it wasn't Superman.
Man of Steel, as far as superhero films go, was overall pretty strong. It definitely had a good emotional vibe to it, I'd say. But it also doesn't really feel like the same universe. They tried to set it's like they were trying to set up a Marvel Cinematic Universe type thing for the DCEU, but it didn't really shape out that way. And in the original cut of Justice League, well, the original one that was released, Cyborg and the Flash, they didn't really feel like actual characters. They weren't very fleshed out, and it was just they just didn't seem anywhere near as important as far as their emotional connection and dissonance to the story. In this one, I actually feel a lot for Cyborg, and the Flash feels really important. And I also just think the Flash overall was a lot better because he was really annoying in the original release. So.
What's brunch? That was the worst joke from that movie. You don't remember?
I remember.
Where he's like, "What's brunch?" And it's we're literally trying to stop the end of the world.
It's
also,
Flash,
not to mention that Joss Whedon had so many ass shots of Wonder Woman in that movie, and I don't think there's one ass shot in this movie, Wonder Woman.
I don't think so. No. Speaking of Wonder Woman,
It's kind of hot.
I was gonna say the music choices were a little
Sus.
frustrating. Every time
It works every once in a while.
Yeah, but in very specific scenarios. It doesn't work every single time Wonder Woman is or will be on screen.
Oh yeah.
That weird tribal music.
So it came out that officially 10% of the entire Snyder Cut film is slow-mo scenes.
10%. Yeah, if they took out the slow-mo, that's
Maybe 3.5 hours.
yeah, it takes out a good chunk of the film.
I get that it's Snyder's thing.
Yeah,
And it works sometimes.
he loves slow-mo, and
Especially in the Flash scenes.
yes, it's effective with the Flash for sure. But what was it? The first scene with Wonder Woman at that. Was it a bank? I can't remember where it was.
It was a bank, and there was a field trip for some reason at a bank.
Yeah, there was just a field trip at a bank, which makes a lot of sense. Maybe that's more popular over in the UK or something, but that doesn't make sense over here.
Weird. Do you think Alex from I Hit Everything was there on set?
On set?
Just walked by the bank.
No.
And I just walked in and was like, epic.
Just the Snyder
And
Cut.
walked out.
Epic. I don't know. All I know is that would make me want to actually be there because I would love to meet him. Because, you know.
Please watch us.
Idols. That he's my idol. 100%.
He saw the Emoji Movie in theaters.
I know. And I feel bad for him because I didn't have to do that.
There was other people there that thought it was funny.
I didn't pay for it, so I didn't pay to watch that movie.
You watched it?
Yeah. You got to give every movie a chance.
I watched the ending when it got leaked on Pornhub. Because I heard it was on there and I looked it up. It had like 1 million views.
Just the ending?
Yeah.
1 million views on Pornhub.
And it was just the ending.
Well, we're getting off topic.
That was 2017.
But in that scene with Wonder Woman, like in that bank, it's like it goes like slow motion for almost no reason. I know it's trying to like showcase Wonder Woman for the first time, like in the film, but overall it just seemed pretty pointless. I don't know. Zack Snyder, I've never been like a huge fan. I think a few of his films are pretty well crafted. I've never really been, against his filmmaking or anything like that, against his directing. And I think overall this is one of his like stronger outings when it comes to like a major film. So,
Yeah, it sucks this wasn't the one that came out. But then again, they wouldn't have let him release a 4-hour movie in theaters.
Yeah, a 4-hour film is...
It might maybe like a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's stuff like Endgame. Endgame was 3 hours. One big difference I will say, though, because, like, I mean, the most natural comparison for these films would be to the MCU, of course. But Endgame is a 3-hour movie, and I've seen it 4 times. And every time I watch it, it feels like an hour and a half or like an hour. It feels like a really quick, enjoyable watch. This film, I felt all 4 hours.
The pacing wasn't bad. It was just the fact that it was 4 hours.
Yeah, it's hard to pace a 4-hour film well, especially with like a lot of the beginning just being mostly brought over from the original released cut.
The first hour or so was just kind of like it's new. It's not that like it's the same.
Yeah,
it's just it's the same like events.
Right. Yeah, it's the same like things happening, and you see like extra scenes that are in there that are fine. There was no reason they should have been cut out. But it's just I don't know. The whole situation is like I definitely would have much preferred this 4-hour film to have been the original release than to have gotten the pile of garbage that we got in 2017.
Yeah, even if like I didn't 100% love this movie, I just love it that the fact that it's out. It's actually a thing.
Yeah, it's actually real now.
And we can all officially get rid of our copies of that 2017 movie if you're a poor soul that bought it and has it proudly on their shelf.
In which case, I am so sorry.
Yeah. This is really jumbled, but this is like our first one, really. But yeah,
this is the first official
review.
Yeah.
Everything else is a ranking, but it's a really solid movie when you compare it to the 2 previous ones that Snyder did. It's a pretty solid trilogy overall. I personally I really enjoyed Man of Steel. I haven't seen it in a while, but I did like it. And then the theatrical cut of BVS was a mess, but that's because the studio also meddled in that. But the extended cut is better. I haven't seen it in a while, but I liked it a lot more. And I feel like this is a nice continuation of that. It's not as dark as those movies. It's a lot more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Especially with like The Flash and Aquaman in some scenes.
100%.
And Superman was a lot more cheerful, which I think was the point.
Yeah.
Because even Zack Snyder said in interviews, when we eventually got to his Justice League like 2 and 3, he would have become much more like, the Superman that we see in the comics. That also annoys me. A lot of the criticisms is that these characters aren't exactly like the comics and whatnot, which is true, but that's because that's what he's trying to do. The reason why Batman kills in BVS is because, you're not supposed to be like, oh, he kills now. You're supposed to be like, he shouldn't kill.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, he isn't. It's different.
I respect what he's trying to do with it. Like one thing I will say about Zack Snyder is that when you just let him do what he wants to do, it's not that bad. Like,
you gave him the director role. You should have let him be the director.
Right. That's the thing about filmmaking as a process. The director is going to want to make the film their own, and if you mess with that, it's not always going to work out. Like, the extended cut of BVS is much better than the theatrical cut, and The Snyder cut of Justice League is way better than Joss Whedon's Justice League. So it's like, and then obviously with these characters, they don't always like he definitely did want to tie into the source material as much as he could, but he wanted to work into that because you do have to adapt these characters to the modern era to make a film successful, and you can't appeal to everybody. And I think the way he was going about it wasn't that bad to try to, bring it together more in the sequels.
Like, if you even look at Aquaman, he's not anything like the comic.
No, yeah.
Which, it works for this movie.
Yeah, which I'm fine with.
They do find a good way to incorporate his original costume in his own movie.
Yeah.
It looks good.
It does look good.
But I don't think it was needed for this movie.
No.
And I don't see people complaining about that. But
yeah. I mean, diehard fans of Aquaman would probably get upset about that.
Which they did at first when he was revealed.
But there are people who've been making fun of Aquaman for years as well. So it's like to see this awesome version in the film played by a super beefed up Jason Momoa. It's like, okay, well, I mean, that's pretty cool. There's less to make fun of, and that's something.
Yeah, and I remember there was even people upset that Cyborg didn't say his catchphrase in the Snyder cut. His booyah or whatever, but it's like, really? One line.
I mean,
it's in the Whedon cut.
It is, yeah.
And it's really forced and not good.
I much prefer Cyborg.
It's like Superman's dumb line where he's like, I also prefer justice.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what are we, some sort of Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
Also, they messed up Suicide Squad a lot. Like, there's an actual David Ayer cut of that movie.
Yeah.
That they should 100% release.
Yeah.
So we can just get rid of that one, too.
I would love to see if that got released. I was so excited for Suicide Squad, and
like, there's so many Joker scenes they deleted from that movie. That
I know. I was so disappointed by Suicide Squad.
It was watchable, but I didn't want to watch it.
It was watchable, but from what I was wanting from it, it was almost aggravating, and it was ridiculous. And
I think the main thing is they just need to get creative people that actually like what they're doing, like the storyline and the characters, instead of just having studios cut it. Like, they literally had Suicide Squad. They had the trailer company re-edit the movie.
Yeah.
And, when you have something like another Warner Brothers property that's doing really well because they have people that actually enjoy the history and the storyline and characters, is their Monsterverse, which is doing much better because they actually let people make the movie.
Yep.
And I don't know why they keep, saying they don't want to keep down this path, because even if not everybody loves it, it's still it's better than rebooting it again.
Yeah.
It's only been a few years, and this is now fresh in everybody's minds. Not to mention, Darkseid in this movie was so cool.
Yeah, Darkseid was really well executed, I think. And
I was worried that was going to be they would just have him in there all of a sudden and just use their best villain right away, because it seems like they've been doing that with a lot of the DC movies.
Yeah.
Like in Aquaman, they not wasted, but they just put his two most famous villains.
Yeah.
In the movie, which is they could have saved some of that.
It was one of my least favorite things about Aquaman because
it was overstuffed.
Yes, I've always loved Aquaman as a hero. One probably my top 3 favorite DC superheroes. Mm-hmm. And I just think his 2 best villains ever.
It would be like if the Dark Knight had Bane and Joker in it.
Yeah.
You just need one of them, really.
Yeah. Villains are tough, and it's hard to write a good villain. But another comparison to the MCU, a lot of films came out before Thanos was introduced, and Thanos was teased before it was oh yeah, Thanos is gonna be in with that end credit scene in what was it, Age of Ultron.
Yeah, he was in Guardians too as a character, small character, but still.
And it's they slowly worked up to it, and then Thanos himself was one of the best written villains in film history.
They even slowly introduced the Infinity Stones. I don't even think we don't even see the first Infinity Stone until Avengers.
No, yeah, and then,
well, technically Thor, but it wasn't told that it was Loki's scepter at that point.
Which overall,
they even waited until Infinity War to introduce one of them.
Yeah,
so it's they didn't blow everything right away.
Yeah, it's not trying to force it, which I think a big part of that is because of Marvel's success. DC really wanted to jump on that train, but the reason Marvel was so successful is because they didn't rush it. It was a slow build of over a decade that led to one of the biggest events in film history, and that's why Endgame was so amazing. Even if the film itself maybe wasn't as good and cohesive as Infinity War as a film, the overall event and spectacle of it is just unrivaled.
Yeah, they definitely rushed this whole Justice League thing. Just, moving from a Superman movie to a Batman and Superman movie to, like 6 heroes altogether.
Yeah.
I feel like Snyder made it. He made it work, but it definitely would have benefited from like a Cyborg or Flash movie, or even a solo Batman movie beforehand. And it feels rushed in some aspects because it's just like all of a sudden these characters have relations with each other, and it's just like they've only known each other for like a few days at most. Unlike with Iron Man and Captain America in the Marvel movies, you get like a solid like 13 years of a relationship between the two. Okay. And even then, they're not like best friends or anything. But
yeah, it's like it always just feels a lot more forced. But with the Snyder cut, it is a little bit better because we get a little more of like that like actual development, like the scenes with Batman, like in the beginning when he goes to try to recruit Aquaman. Aquaman's response feels a little bit more real, I think. But like, and then he just kind of shows up later. I don't know. In both cuts, it's just kind of, it's just.
Well, he has both. He has like a few more scenes where he's debating it.
Yeah. It isn't fully fleshed out, but in the Snyder cut, it feels a lot more like Aquaman. Like he thought about it, and then he thought more about the good of the world, and then he was, I don't know. With him, he wasn't really nice to any of the other ones until like late in the movie, until like after they'd been through some things. The Flash, I mean, Barry Allen's just like a fanboy the whole time. Cyborg takes a while to come around. I mean, in the first cut that was released, it feels a lot more like, oh, here they're all together, boom.
Yeah, Cyborg was probably the best, had the best character arc. And especially the message of that character in the movie, with the context of what happened to Snyder when he tried to make this movie with his daughter. It definitely, you can tell that he actually cares about that a lot. And even Snyder said after the Snyder Cut came out, he really wanted the Cyborg movie to happen. And it sucks that probably won't ever happen because the actor's been essentially fired by the studio for saying some things he did about the Joss Whedon cut. But it's, I don't know. It's a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Snyder Cut,
I don't know how often I'll watch it.
I mean, yeah, the Snyder Cut's not one of those movies I'm gonna revisit. It's got its flaws. It's got some weird like writing decisions. It's got the acting still is not very strong like overall. But I mean, obviously in my mind, I compare it to the 2017 release, and it's like way better. Like, even if it's still not that good of a movie, it is way better.
Yeah, there's even just small changes that just enhance it a lot more. Like, obviously cutting a lot of the cringy jokes that were in the movie. Yeah. And then even, like, it was stupid that the studio gave a time limit for how long the movie could be to release in theaters. Because they said if it's over 2 hours, it has to be, like, exactly 2 hours, which is dumb. Because, if they just, like, extended some of these scenes or added some of them, like... Yeah. The Joss Whedon cut could have just been better if there was like even like 20 to 30 minutes more added.
Right, yeah.
Of what Snyder made. And then there's also the dumb things like with Superman and his mustache, and it's horrible. At least in this one I can look at him without wanting to look away. Yeah. And he has a lot more cooler stuff. Like even Superman's entrance in the Snyder cut is way more natural and stylish. Yeah. Like, how he does his freeze breath is so much better.
It looks and flows so much better in the Snyder Cut.
And then the black suit, I also really like the black suit. I think it looks really good. It does look good. It's missing, in the comics, the mullet and the beard and whatnot, but it's not really needed.
I don't think that's important. Yeah. I think overall, like, it's tough to, like, have a film that you want to have a serious tone as like a big like climactic film,
and then you have a character like the Flash in there.
But then you have a character like the Flash, which yes, like comic relief is good and it is important in movies like this. But it's like you got to find the balance. In the Justice League cut, they like forced them to have like that.
They
went
way over.
Yeah, they went way overboard, and it's like, and like you need to give filmmakers, if they're making a movie, they have to have more freedom than that, because if you're put into a crunch, you can't actually make something that's well written and it's more concise and cohesive. You got to have like that time. You got to have time to flesh it all out. If you try to fit like the 4 hours of the Snyder Cut into 2 hours, which is basically what happened, it is just terrible. It just won't work because there's a lot there. And yeah, the Snyder Cut could have been a lot shorter, but the overall story actually
and
feels like a story.
If Snyder got to make, if he didn't get fired or let go or whatever, back when the original cut came out, he probably would have trimmed it down to like maybe 3 hours because, you know, it was going to theaters. But since he was allowed to make his full vision and it would go straight to streaming, you know, might as well just put everything in.
Yeah, which is definitely understandable.
And that's respectful. But like, there's probably like a good version that could be like shortened down a bit and re-released. That'd be like, I guess, you know, like the perfect like cinema experience of it.
Right.
But from a fan and, you know, just like a vision perspective for filmmaking, it definitely is nice to have the full 4 hours.
Yeah, like, I mean, I like superhero films. I mean, a lot of modern ones are pretty weak outside of, like, the good MCU ones. Even, like, a lot of the MCU are pretty weak. Like,
even in the MCU, they're so stuck in the trappings of keeping to the formula.
Yeah.
Like, even with WandaVision, which I really enjoyed it, but still in the final episode, they just kind of resulted to, you know, magic fights and runes and white vision on vision just crashing through stuff. It was still good, but it was just kind of like the show was so much different and just see kind of end on such a similar note.
That was my favorite thing about WandaVision was it was different, and it's good to see these movies like go against the formula. One thing I will say about the original Justice League is that it felt very formulaic to how superhero films are supposed to be, quote unquote.
It was just too generic.
Yeah, it was just extremely generic.
None of the jokes landed.
And like the characters, dude. Like I look at the characters, and when I saw the first one, it's like they don't.
Between the Snyder cut and theatrical cut, it's night and day.
Yes, 100%. Because in Justice League, it's like, oh, all these characters are just here, and I don't feel anything toward them at all. They're just there.
Yeah, the only few characters I can think they're pretty much the same in both cuts is probably like Lois Lane and I guess Alfred's kind of the same. I liked it more in this cut, but kind of the same role. And even Wonder Woman, I don't feel like there's anything that different about her character in this movie, besides some different scenes. Also, her decapitation at the end, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, we haven't talked about that. Steppenwolf was way better.
I was gonna.
He was actually a good villain.
Steppenwolf was
the design too was so much better.
The design and the overall his arc is actually, I would say, superb in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I loved it.
It was one of my favorite parts of the film
which
because
just makes me want to see, you know, Darkseid
that
world more.
A good written villain definitely makes or breaks a superhero film, or any film with a villain for that matter, and he was so much better in this one.
He's actually menacing. Yeah,
he was menacing. He had motivation that was a lot more understandable. For me, like, I know if I ever want to like write a villain into a story, it's important that like you don't want to agree with the villain because you're supposed to be against them, but you want to understand why they're doing what they're doing.
You get what he's doing.
Yeah, if they feel relatable to an extent, but also menacing, like you said, and like something that is bad, dark. You don't want it to be a part of like what's actually going to happen. You don't want them to succeed. Then that is good, and it's a lot closer to that in the Snyder Cut.
And even better villains are ones that you almost start to root for.
Yeah. You almost root for them, and it's like seeing their demise, seeing their failure. It's
almost hurts as
it's
much
more
if the hero died.
Yeah, it's more bittersweet. It's like obviously you want to see the heroes emerge if that part is also well written, which is the whole thing. But
I feel like they got close to that recently. Disney did with Kylo Ren, but they kind of blew it. Yeah. That we can get into that later, but that was just such poorly scripted.
We should definitely talk about Star Wars and them, but
yeah.
From the main problem with that trilogy is from movie to movie to movie. There's not much consistency.
His performance though was great.
Adam Driver did a great job. I've never been a huge Adam Driver fan. Like some of the stuff he's done is pretty good, but that as Kylo Ren, he did incredible. Yeah, I would say even
Marriage
pretty
Story
underrated.
too was a great performance.
Oh yeah, that one's really good as well.
Yeah, the whole meme. Where he punches the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of nice comic book references and even just references to the old movies. Like, there's not as many dumb references. Like, I remember in the Whedon cut, they kept having Wonder Woman mention Steve Trevor constantly. Just because that movie came out, like, the same year. Yeah. And it's like, in this movie, it's a lot more subtle. And even when Superman gets his new suit, like it's you have the voiceover of the two dads, which isn't like you don't need it, but it adds a lot, especially if you like say watch these 3 movies like in the same day or something, which that's a long time. Yeah. But because even Man of Steel like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, they're all like.
But yeah, it does suck though that pretty much the only one they can really relate to the most is probably Superman because you've had the most time with him, and then characters like Cyborg, which you maybe had maybe a 25-30 minute like backstory for.
Yeah, I mean the thing with me and Superman, it's always been like I haven't really been a huge fan of him, but like I know that like
it's very hard to get right for modern audiences. It's
really difficult because the best part about Superman is if you can write it with complexity, is that he's extremely powerful being and there's nothing relatable about that, but like him wanting to be relatable becomes relatable, and him like living on Earth with us like kind of like disguised as a human because he's technically an alien, whatever. It's like that you find relatability in that, even though he's not actually a relatable character, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
You are. And then probably the only other relatable character that you really root for because you've seen him before is probably Batman.
Yeah.
Which I think Ben Affleck's good as Batman.
Yeah, which I just want to say.
I don't think he's gotten his own chance to be Batman like in his own movie.
Yeah.
He's always like, especially in this movie, he's just kind of. You also saw it in the end of BVS with the Doomsday fight. He just doesn't have much to do because he's just a regular human.
Yeah, he's just the facilitator, and it's like
he brings the whole team together, which is important, and he does do stuff in the final battle.
He is like a leader.
And I think Ben Affleck does good acting with the character.
I think Batman's character is a lot
better in this cut.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of those dumb jokes where it's like, oh, he wants to retire. Oh, something's definitely bleeding.
Yeah.
And also the gauntlets that he had, which I don't know why they would cut that out.
Yeah.
Which like, they're cool.
They are cool. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't really a reason to
cut that out.
Like I understand that because they were forced to shorten it down, there were things they had to choose, but like some of their choices just didn't really make much sense to me. But I mean, I'm not a filmmaker, so I can't really say.
No matter what you do, when you see like Wonder Woman fighting Steppenwolf and then he's just fighting one parademon for like 5 minutes, he's gonna feel nerfed. But
right.
Yeah. But you don't want to overpower him either.
I mean,
definitely have in the comics,
and that's the good part about Batman too, is that he's a lot more. He's got the realism aspect. It's like how Iron Man in the MCU, Iron Man could be real theoretically. Yeah. There's no like magical element necessarily with him. It's all technology, which is really cool. With Batman, it comes down to a lot more to like what like the performance of the actors and how well that realism is portrayed through the role. And I do think that Ben Affleck, I think he got a lot of hate early on, and maybe still does. I haven't seen much about it, but overall, I think he's been a pretty strong Batman.
For what he's got, yeah.
Yeah, for what he's got. Like he's been in like Batman vs Superman. It was not the best written, and his character was not the best written.
But I didn't have complaints about his acting in that movie.
Yeah, like his acting really wasn't that bad. Like I think he was doing a good job with what he had, and overall, like he's got the persona. He's got the Batman feel to him.
I like his outfit too. I forgot the guy that plays him, but I like him.
Yeah, I don't know the actor, but he does.
I think he was the villain in The Lion King or something.
Really?
I think he voiced Scar in Lion King.
The original Scar?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the new one was Idris Elba, so.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of them, so.
Oh, yeah, you haven't seen
I think I've seen Lion King. It's been so long.
Yeah. First one classic, remake terrible, but.
There were some sequels too, I guess.
Yeah, there were. It's a whole thing. There's a whole rabbit hole of movies all time, which is crazy.
Yeah, and then. What else to talk about? A lot of the nightmare scene at the end.
Yeah.
Which was actually the only newly shot, like they filmed in October, and like in like somebody's driveway or something, and they just put a bunch of green screen stuff around.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and they actually got Ben Affleck back, even though he said he was done, and they got Jared Leto back, which he gave a much better performance in this than he did in Suicide Squad. Most likely because it wasn't cut down and stuff, but it was nice to see him again, and seeing the Nightmare timeline stuff is interesting because that's what would have been the second movie.
Yes. which is really cool to me because I think that if given time could have been a strong outing, at least, compared to some
Definitely
films.
different.
Yeah, at least with most superhero films, I don't have that high expectations when it comes to like a movie in general. But like obviously, like I would look forward to that as its own film.
And it would have made like all the scenes that people complained about in BVS that were like setting that up because they're like, why does the Flash show up randomly? Why is he having this random dream?
Yeah.
But yeah,
and I will just say that like
it's very similar to Tony Stark after like Age of Ultron.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
it does have like that vibe.
But that was different though because we had 2 complete phases of that character. Yeah.
And then like with Jared Leto, like what he said in that like the few minutes of that sequence was better than all of what he did in Suicide Squad.
It's definitely top tier Joker and Batman dialogue.
Yeah,
some people are saying it beats the interrogation scene from Dark Knight, but I don't think so.
No,
it's definitely up there, probably.
Yeah, it's close, I would say, because it actually feels like the Joker and Batman, and that's one thing. Like again, Ben Affleck actually feels like the Batman in that scene, and Jared Leto actually feels like the Joker. Like it actually feels like that dynamic that is so iconic from all the comics and the cartoons and everything.
Yeah,
probably like it's one of, if not the most famous hero to villain like combination ever.
Yeah.
So, overall, it was definitely really cool. I think that,
and then
I was definitely surprised by it. I wasn't expecting it, and it was nice to see. It does make me want to see what like a sequel would be, but it just, I don't know. I know the Batman is when is, I don't know when that's releasing with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I think that's next year. I think they finished filming recently, which I'm excited for. But
yeah, and I think that'll be really cool. But
it's just I'm kind of tired of the reboots constantly.
Yeah, me too. Like I like the premise that they've got going with that one. At least what it seems like from the trailer. But I mean, I would like to see some other characters start to get their own standalone films. Like Cyborg never got that movie. I mean, even
the Flash is still in development.
Yeah,
it seems
Flash.
like.
I mean, they rumored that they were gonna make like an official DC like Green Lantern movie a while ago, which I don't know if that ever.
Which there were Green Lanterns in this movie.
Yeah.
And originally, instead of Martian Manhunter, it was going to be Green Lantern or something.
Yeah, I guess it was supposed to be Green Lantern
at the end. It was cool to see Martian Manhunter, but it seemed kind of...
a good Easter egg to one of the cooler characters.
It seemed a little random in the grand scheme of the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if he would have been in Justice League 2 or 3 when it was planned, but probably. Yeah, he said he's revised it, so like if they say, hey, you want to make this movie, he has everything ready. Which seems like they could just make basically free money off that. Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see it just because if it's more like the Snyder Cut and if they can expand upon it, it could actually be a pretty good series. Definitely just completely scrap everything that was that had its foundation in the Whedon Cut because
another thing I would have been interested in is if they would have, because part of that original lineup of films they were going to make back when they announced in like 2015 or whatever, when they had like the Green Lantern and Cyborg and all that, and like the Flash was supposed to come out in 2018.
Right.
It's 2021. But they were gonna Shazam was part of that lineup, so it's assumed that it's one of these Justice League movies we would have saw Shazam in it.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see how such a fun character would have been
Shazam
incorporated.
Was a fun character, and also the film itself was pretty good. It was pretty good.
It was like I didn't mind it. It was a little long, and they had the Aquaman problem where they kind of just exhausted all their possibilities in one movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how's a sequel gonna really expand? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of content to expand from, but it's just like the coolest storylines were just kind of done.
Yeah, I think they really stretched a lot out of just that one Shazam film,
which seems like they might even be doing with the Flash movie.
I did enjoy it, at least compared to like a lot of other films in the DCEU, but it's like it could have been less, and I think less would have been more in that situation, and it would have been in that like you said, it's a fun character who has a lot of great dynamics with the Justice League throughout like the comic series. And like through other like some of like the cartoon movies from the 2000s and all that stuff, like Shazam could have been integrated really well, I think. So
yeah, it sucks that lineup never happened because from what I've heard, the Green Lantern movie was going to be like a buddy cop movie with the Jon Stewart, like the black Green Lantern, and then the traditional. I don't remember what.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, I don't remember which one Ryan Reynolds played. that character, not Ryan Reynolds playing him, but
yeah, I know what you mean.
I forgot Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan.
Yes.
It would have been like those two instead of like another origin story, since that first Green Lantern was so bad. But yeah,
we should definitely do one of these sometime on just like the absolute worst horror movies ever. Or horror movies.
I mean, both,
superhero films. Yeah, horror movies as well. But yeah.
But
there's some real stinkers.
Yeah.
Man.
And then Wonder Woman in the movie was definitely better than the Snyder cut. It still felt fairly the same. I'm not a big fan of Gal Gadot's acting
I'm not
in any of the movies. Her
I
strongest is probably the first Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's probably the strongest. And even then, I'm not really a huge fan. I think when Wonder Woman first came out, like the media of it, like everybody seemed to like really love it.
It was definitely
overhyped.
overhyped.
Oh yeah, like I mean, I think the problem with it is like when you say, "Oh, I didn't like Wonder Woman," it's like, "Oh, you don't like a female superhero movie." It's like, no, I don't like this movie. You know, I think that Wonder Woman is a pretty good character, has a strong origin, a great backstory that could have been executed better in a film format. And I don't think Gal Gadot's bad, but like her acting, I just can't find any vibes with it. So I don't know. It's just overall.
Some of it works sometimes, but just overall, sometimes it's just kind of like, why are you giving all the exposition dumps to clearly the most inexperienced here, besides maybe Ezra Miller, but yeah. Which even in the Snyder cut, I'm still not like completely on board with him as the Flash.
Yeah, I think it's better.
Definitely better, yeah.
He's definitely still like the primary comic relief, and like there's nothing wrong with that. But like he's so goofy. It's like it just feels out of place. It's not natural.
Yeah. Are you just standing up to stand up? Or? Oh, okay. Sit back down. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I don't know what else is there to talk about. The mother boxes were a lot better explained in this movie.
Oh yeah, like I've definitely like looked back at some of the original DC stories, like a little bit, not like as in depth. So being able to actually see something like that more intricately interweaved into the overall film and structure of the film, it made a lot more sense, and it made the ride a lot more smooth than in Justice Whedon cut League, whatever. And
the third act was so much better. It was really bold to have them actually lose, and then have that Flash scene where he's actually important to the plot.
Yeah.
Of the time travel, and that's really
which also
well executed.
Yeah, and also integrates like a cool part of like the original like the Flash's powers, and to actually show something that he's been known for doing. It's like it really felt like a awesome climactic scene. It didn't feel that way in Justice League, the 2017 version. Maybe that's because like I was just so angry after like the terrible movie I just like witnessed the majority of already. But either way, it was a lot better. Yeah, for sure. Even just like the colors were better because, for the 2017 one, they just brightened everything up because they thought that'd make it more fun. But, it doesn't. Yeah, and even if it did, like, I don't think we're really looking for fun. We're looking for
a good superhero movie, especially a good Justice League movie because we never got one.
Right, like the mass majority of fans are looking for well choreographed action. Fun action, but fun action doesn't mean like vibrancy. Like that doesn't equal,
Yeah. You good?
Yeah, I'm great. Yeah. And like obviously us as film fans, we're looking for cohesive writing, a strong story, well fleshed out characters and character development, and I think on every significant level, the Snyder Cut excels past the Justice League. Yeah, for sure. I bet a lot of the people that said it didn't exist probably feel a little dumb. Probably, yeah. Definitely Warner Brothers does, realizing that they made an entire movie that really didn't need to be made. Yeah. Like, you got to realize they reshot like pretty much like nearly every scene for Justice League, and it's just so much worse. Yeah, even the actors, like, you can tell they don't want to do it again. Yeah, who wants to film the same movie twice but worse? Yeah. Nobody. Like, even they knew how much worse it was, and like I'm sure that they didn't. Like Joss Whedon, some of his work in the past,
He's made some good stuff, but the
he
guy
has done some
himself
good stuff.
and how he made this movie was pretty bad.
Yeah, and I definitely have no respect for that, at least for that aspect. And you could tell that the actors, I mean, all of them really, they just weren't as into it, and it's just, I don't know, because it was such a letdown as someone who really wanted Justice League when it originally came out. I was like, I really want this to be good, because I really think that there's a lot of potential with these characters and the number of stories that they've had in the past. And then it was just a flop. So
it was Justice League.
It was Justice League.
It just felt like I guess the best thing is it just felt like a Dollar General version of the Avengers. And then it felt like a watered down version of a director's vision. Yeah.
Which is never what you want in a movie.
Nobody watches that. Actually, I remember Joey said he liked Justice League.
Well, Joey
and Jared.
Joey also said that The Rise of Skywalker was a 10 out of 10.
I think the worst part is he said it was like a really good conclusion.
Yeah.
In very few aspects was it a fitting conclusion.
Sparingly few. Yeah. But, I don't know. I think Joey probably just he was like, oh, cool action, fun, boom. And I think that like went with a lot of people. But even like people,
I think they overestimated the studio, how many people just wanted Zack Snyder's movie.
Yeah.
Even people that aren't hardcore fans just want that consistency that they just saw, in 2 movies.
Yeah, they've already got 2 movies of Zack Snyder leading up to this. So then it's just like, oh, well, no, we're going to do this now. And it's like, it doesn't feel like the same.
And then now in the Flash movie, they're basically just going to reboot everything.
Yeah.
But have, like, the same actors.
Why?
It's like, I don't want to, they don't have to be like Marvel where literally everything's connected, where it's like, oh, this random truck in Falcon and Winter Soldier is actually a reference to the Incredible Hulk. Like, we're not saying we need that much interconnectivity, but we need a solid, not vision, but they need somebody like Kevin Feige over there that like,
yeah, absolutely,
keeps everything like in the same, like everything connects in a way.
Yeah, everything has connectivity and consistency, which is one of the biggest things. And it's like, with the Whedon cut, like I mean, rewrites are obviously a thing that happen a lot in film.
Yeah, that's more than fine, including reshoots.
Rewrites or reshoots are definitely okay, but like just completely taking someone away who's the film was their vision, and
especially after such a tragedy.
Yeah, and after the reason that like he like was like taking a break or was like
stepping away.
Yeah, stepping away. No matter how brief it was because of a serious reason that anyone would have done the same thing in that scenario. So it's like,
yeah, not saying that like DC can't have Elseworld movies. They proved that they can do that well with Joker and most likely the new Batman.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah, but there needs to be more of a solid storyline.
Yeah, and then it's like, if you have someone on for the job, and even if they need to step away, just let them finish it, and don't bring in some other guy because
it's not what these studios are getting.
Yeah.
Even with The Rise of Skywalker, they're like, we have to get it out by this date. And it's like, you realize if it's bad, people aren't going to like it. And if they would rather have it delayed and be fixed and become much better than just get a half-rushed movie.
The golden rule is always quality over quantity.
Yeah.
It's like, I would, like we always talk about, like, with the Monsterverse going on right now, I'd love to see a new Gamera movie because I love the Gamera character. But it's like, if they were to just be like, oh, well, here we go, let's try to make some money off of this. Like, no, I would want them to take their time, no matter how long I'd have to wait to actually create something of quality, so that I'm not disappointed. Because being disappointed by a film is like one of the worst things that a film can do.
And speaking of that, just because it's it's coming out soon, and it's by the same studio, they could have easily just made Godzilla vs. Kong without the previous 2 Godzilla and the one Kong movie.
Yeah,
but they did that to build up the story.
Yeah,
and
they were building
characters.
They were building up a universe that
it's cooler that it's a Godzilla that we've seen, that we've known since like almost 10 years. And it's a Kong that we've gotten to relate to in his last movie.
Right. Yeah, like we actually know these monsters as characters.
Yeah, then we've had those post-credit scenes that have hinted at what's coming.
Right. It's like with a lot of kaiju films, like of recent years, it's like, oh, well, they're just big monsters, whatever.
There doesn't have to be a storyline.
Yeah.
And even with that sense, like in Kong Skull Island, they introduced like the Hollow Earth,
Yeah.
And in each movie, that's become increasingly more of a plot line. And then Godzilla vs. Kong was straight up going there.
It's actually well structured. Even if the films themselves aren't always that good, I know I'm going to enjoy it because of little things like that. And Godzilla actually feels like a character at this point that I can relate to. Even if I didn't like King of the Monsters, which I really didn't. But I did quite enjoy the first one. And I liked Kong Skull Island, and now these monsters, these like kaiju, whatever, they feel like actual characters. And it was just really hard for them to try to establish that in the DCEU leading into Justice League. And then now that was 4 whole years ago, so it's like they came out with a Snyder cut. And
they really just botched this whole... If they stuck to that plan they made, it would have been much better.
Oh, yeah.
They're very reactionary, which is similar situation Star Wars is in. I don't know if they're in it anymore.
Yeah.
But they definitely were with the sequels, and that really tarnished what they were doing. Yeah. It's almost similar to what George Lucas did with the prequels, where it's like he was getting hate, but he made his movies the way he wanted to make it.
Right.
And, over time they've become much more appreciated. Yeah. And they're not all great, but they're definitely, like, I watch them just because I appreciate the story that's being told.
Yes.
Yeah.
They should really just stick to the script that they set up.
And they can change it, that's fine.
Yeah, they can make changes.
Don't make dramatic changes that completely mess up what you were setting up.
Right. Like, they had a whole universe planned, and, like, they definitely, like, they were reactionary, like you said, and they definitely wanted to rush it because of the success of the MCU. But, no, if you want to replicate the MCU, and even if you don't want to do that, you want it to be...
They didn't have to, take as much time as Marvel did to set it up. They didn't have to take 3 phases or whatever.
Yeah.
20 movies, over 10 years. But they at least needed a much more solid set-up point for each character than, in BVS having, like, a 5-minute flash drive thing. Actual
true origin stories that are fleshed out.
Especially for characters we don't know.
Yeah, that we aren't aware of.
It's okay for, like, Batman, since, we just got a whole trilogy before this about him.
Yeah.
And everybody knows his story, mostly. But, like, characters like, The Flash or Cyborg.
Yeah, or, like, Aquaman. He got his film now. It's, like...
It's weird to have this big team-up movie and then the individual films afterwards when the stakes just had to keep going up.
Yeah, and you got to give it room to breathe as well. It's like, oh, well, here we go. Boom. Here's all of the characters together.
I mean, there was also... Zack Snyder has that problem, too, like, introducing Doomsday at the end of BVS. It was kind of... It worked in the story, I guess, but it was just kind of like, did we really need that in this already 2.5-hour movie?
Right.
The climax itself could have just been the fight between Batman and Superman.
And
or, Lex Luthor or something.
And, like, having all the characters together at first for, like, a first film, like, if, like, say Justice League was supposed to be a trilogy, then the first one comes out, then some of the origin stories come out, that could have worked if they took, like, a lot of time to really work on the story.
Yeah, and that's what I think Zack Snyder wanted.
Yeah,
but the studio did not stick to that.
Yeah, the studio really didn't, because they were more focused on what was happening in the now, and it's like, you have to let something like that, you have to let it develop. It's not just gonna happen, like... Bang! I can't snap, but it's just it's infuriating as a fan of the characters and the stories.
And I'm more than down to see whatever he had planned next.
Yeah, and I'm fun to see what DC can
do next. I'm not super excited for like Aquaman 2 or Shazam 2. I'll watch them. And I'm definitely not excited for Wonder Woman 3 after 1984.
Yeah, because that's inevitable, which is unfortunate.
I think they already announced it too.
Really didn't like the first two.
And then I've kind of not lost all hope, but I'm not really like excited for any Green Lantern or Flash movie, because it's not they've shown so far they can't actually do it justice. Yeah. League.
Pun very much so intended.
And I guess they're rebooting Superman again. Like J.J. Abrams is doing a Superman movie. It's like, you could just make Man of Steel 2.
One thing I will say is that
Henry Cavill is definitely the best looking and kind of the best actor that's ever played Superman.
Yeah, he's been the best Superman incarnation. At least, I mean, Christopher Reeves was good in like the
80s
one, in the 70s. The first one, and maybe the Donner cut of the second one, but like that's really it.
I had somebody that said Superman 3 was good, and I was like, it's not good. They're like, no, it was fun. It's boring.
No, but oh my gosh. Superman. But yeah, Henry Cavill, I think he's done a great job.
He's always brought his A game.
Of every Superman like every Superman moment over like over these last like few years that like since Man of Steel and all of the inclusions of Superman, Henry Cavill's performance has been probably my favorite part. So yeah, basically one thing they got going for them, for me at least, the bar is very low. So if they come out with something good, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But if they come out with something bad, I won't be surprised, and that's not good. But you know.
Yeah, and then with this 4-hour cut, I think probably the hardest thing is to get people feel invested and want more. Yeah. And I feel like the Snyder cut at least kept people invested, and for a lot of people wants them to at least see what happens. Which there's a chance we won't see it, and there's also a chance we will. Yep. And I definitely think we should, at least in some form.
I think we should, but I won't be super disappointed if we don't at this point.
At least we got this movie. At least he got some sort of trilogy.
Even if like I said earlier, it's probably like a 5 out of 10 for me. Even in that case, I still am happy that it happened, because not only is it a vast improvement of what we originally saw, it's just a good...
It just kind of speaks to filmmaking. Yeah. About the vision.
It's a good accumulation of everything that I've...
Not the character.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely opens the door for more, like almost like extended cuts of movies that were tarnished in the past.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Like, you know, we had the Donner cut of Superman 2. Which I don't know if I've seen the Donner cut. I don't know how much better it is. I know it improves on some things. But even as its own
I've
movie,
only seen the Donner cut.
Superman
I have not
2
seen the original. Yeah.
I don't love the Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
The first one is, I mean, it's a classic, but it's not. It's whatever. And then the second one is whatever. 3 and 4 awful. 4 much worse, but they're both really bad. And then
Returns is it's okay. It's fine. It's a movie.
It's bad. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's just the worst thing a movie about a Superman can be is boring.
Yeah.
And they somehow did that.
Superman, maybe that's why I've always perceived Superman as boring. But it's like...
He's definitely had good stories in the comics.
What's boring about Superman is that, he's just all powerful or whatever. But like, the whole kryptonite thing is actually, in at least the story in the comics, the original arc is pretty well integrated. It's like, this is his weakness and it's used well. In the movies, it's like, he's super strong. Oh, now he's weak. This is the movie. And it's just, I don't know. It's overall just, they're pretty weak films.
Yeah, and then I feel like a good example of that is Thor in the MCU. He's basically Superman of that universe.
Yeah.
And they made him so relatable. Not in the first few movies, but once they started to really take everything away from him.
Thor's character arc is actually really strong, because at first he's in the first film he's on a different planet to him. He's an alien, basically. And it's like he doesn't feel like an actual relatable character, because he's not really supposed to be yet. Yeah, he's a god, and he doesn't see himself on that level yet, but he actually develops, and even as bad as Thor the Dark World was, at least he develops a little more. And then once you get to like the other films that he appears in, and then his own third film, he actually feels like a relatable character who's fun, and you get excited every time he's on the screen, and it's like you could see that development, which is really nice.
Yeah. In some ways, it almost makes me wish Zod didn't die in Man of Steel, and he was almost like the Loki to Superman.
Yeah, that would have been really good.
Yeah, but it's also like, how would you have kept him captive at all?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd recommend it. At least like a one-time thing.
Yeah, if you can sit through 1 4-hour session of a film that's... Especially if you like superheroes, then it's okay. But if not, I mean, I don't know. But I'd say overall, I would recommend it as a film. There's a lot worse out there. Me giving it a 5 out of 10 is pretty high praise, because a lot of movies just are not very strong for me. So, yeah. If a film gets like a 7 or higher, I think it's pretty exceptional. But like the bar from like 6 to 7 is pretty, like, it's a really big gap. So
yeah, I'd probably give it a 7, or I don't know. I really enjoyed the experience. As a movie itself, it's probably like a 7, 6.5 at the lowest. I don't like giving ratings because it's pretty hard, but this is probably the best Zack Snyder DC film. I haven't seen Watchmen, which I don't think is DC. Is it DC? I think it is DC, actually.
It's like DC,
but it's its own thing.
It's its own thing, though,
I haven't seen it. I know there's like 4 different cuts of the movie that each get longer and longer.
I mean, I can't remember. I've seen like a few different ones, but like one of them is pretty good. Like Watchmen overall, it's a strong film.
But yeah, I think that's about it. Unless you have anything else.
No, that's really all I have to say.
All right.
Well, I think that'll wrap it up here on this episode of AmityCast, reviewing the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Should I say Snydercast?
No.
Okay.
But
yeah, if you happen to listen, thank you very much, and I guess we'll see you next time.
All right.